pain is never just physical pain. Yeah, that's it. But that was what was the most painful of it all, is like I had taken years to decide what career I wanted, and I had left everything behind to go back to school as a dancer. So that was just blowing off my whole dream. And so there was that pain as well that came along with the physical pain.
In today's episode, I'm having a very special guest, my dear friend and colleague, Christine Germain. She shares with us her journey of healing with the Feldenkrais method, her trials and tribulations as a dancer and choreographer, having to deal with pain and injury, and how all this shaped her thinking and her ways of working with her clients and students today. You're listening to Your Moving Mind, the meeting point of movement and mindfulness, and everything in between. Move your mind your movement, with your host, Michael Landau. Before diving into today's episode, let me tell you about mindful movement every day. I've recently created a 5-day course that takes you through the process I developed in the last few years. This course, Mindful Movement Every Day, is so far completely free. It leads you through 5 daily movement sessions. You slow down, you pay attention, you explore yourself for a few minutes, and you improve. Mindful Movement Every Day doesn't only give you 5 days of mindful movement, it teaches you how to keep doing it for a short moment every day. I don't know how long it will stay free of charge, so don't wait too long. Go to persistent-growth.com and sign up. Start moving mindfully today, and you'll never want to stop doing it. persistent-growth.com. And I'll see you in Mindful Movement Every Day. Hello and welcome to Your Moving Mind. I have a very special guest and colleague today, Christine Germain. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Christine is a colleague I've never met in person, but we've been in touch for a while. I'll let you know a little bit about her. Christine Germain is a movement explorer, choreographer, Pilates instructor, and Feldenkrais practitioner. After dealing with chronic pain, chronic pelvic pain, seeing various specialists, and then being hit by a car, oh my God, you've been through stuff. The Feldenkrais method is what helped her the most. It wasn't instant relief, but it brought a well-being that became louder than the pain at first, and slowly the pain dissolved. The life-changing adventure allowed her to get back to dancing, start circus training, and to get stronger than ever. Christine empathizes with clients, and she is proud to be stubborn because she strongly believes that they can improve their well-being together. I love it. Sounds like you've been through 5 lifetimes in this lifetime. Circus training, okay. So what we have in common is the Feldenkrais method, moving with awareness.
Yes.
It helped you go through some difficulties.
Yes.
And this is also my experience. People usually come to us because something hurts. So they've tried everything, and the Feldenkrais method is still something kind of alternative. Not too many people know about it. It's expanding, and it has amazing results, often where other methods and traditional medicine don't kind of give up.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll have to live with pain. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to start there. For me, the Feldenkrais method is a spiritual journey. It's a journey of growth. So it is not really meant as a treatment, as a therapy. So relieving pain, from my understanding, is kind of a side effect of what we are doing. But usually people start looking for solutions when something hurts. So what's your experience with yourself? It seems like you you found the Feldenkrais method because you were in pain, and
Yeah.
also probably most of your clients start there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And
You're welcome.
here. Um, I actually got into the Feldenkrais method first as part of the curriculum of the dance training in Quebec
Hi.
City. So it wasn't for pain. It was a part of our training as dancers to take care of ourselves, to get to know ourselves better, to make better choices, and for the longevity of our career as dancers. And within the beginning of the semester, I had practiced different dances from around the world. I've traveled. I had been very active, and with the change of the type of dancing I was doing in a conservatory dance training, I had a little discomfort. I wouldn't even say it was pain. I had a little discomfort in my foot. And the dance teachers were like, okay, you're going to be dancer as a career. You don't want to just leave that and dance all day with something that is just uncomfortable. You don't even want to, you know, overuse that. You want to go and check with a specialist right away, which I did. And that person had took different decision, and he thought that my leg was longer than the other. He made a manipulation, and I left with a it wasn't chronic. I had pain. I left and I had pain, and this became very difficult. Basically, he moved my pubic symphysis, which is the front of the pelvic for people who don't know where that is. So it's where the two big bones of your pelvis meet at the front, there's a cartilage there, which is supposed to be more like a little bit of movement there, because women, when they give birth, it's going to be expanding. However, it has a certain solidity to it. And after that manipulation, it became very unstable, and it would be painful locally, but then the pain became elsewhere as well, because the whole muscular system was trying to hold. This is what I understand now. I didn't know that's what was happening then, but now from what I understand with my experience, that's how I can describe it. It seems like the muscular system was trying to hold on for the skeleton that wasn't being able to be stable. And so the pain went down the pelvic floor, all the muscles of the pelvis and the leg. And yeah, so that became very painful. And I remember coming down the stairs at the dance school, because I was trying to go to the dance classes. I would lay down on my back. And we know that visualization is supposed to be helpful for recovery. And in rehab, there's been studies, even in early 2000, we knew that studies were shown that people who rehearsed in their mind had almost as much effect, like improvement, than the people who did the exercises
Yeah.
physically. So my teachers knew that. I would stay on my back. I would watch the dance classes and imagine I was doing all the exercise. So I did that for several months. But one day I was trying to go down the stairs, and I had difficulty walking one step down at a time, and I was crying. And it was not, pain is never just physical pain. When you talk about, spirituality and all this, it's like the pain is, yeah, that's it. But that was what was the most painful of it all, is like I had taken years to decide what career I wanted, and I had left everything behind to go back to school as a dancer. So that was just blowing off my whole dream. And so there was that pain as well that came along with the physical pain. And so I was trying to go down the stairs and I was like super slow to try to minimize the painful uh, experience from going down the stairs. And the Feldenkrais teacher, Marie-Lorraine, was down at the bottom of the stairs and she saw me cry and she took a minute to listen to my story. I had taken her classes in the dance school. And then she said, "Are you free right now?" And she offered me my first functional integration, which is, for people who don't know, the hands-on approach. So I went to her place. She said, "Are you able to drive?" And so I went there and was able to receive my first functional integration. And it was, I think what she brought was the relationship. I still remember that lesson. I still remember she was touching my ribs. And I remember me being scared of being touched again. But I remember walking out the door, and it was like during the lesson it felt good, but not so much change. But when I walked out in the street, it's when I realized, wow, like the breathing was different and the pain was still there somehow, but there was such a pleasant experience in my breath and my chest that it moved my focus elsewhere. And yeah, that's what I can explain. Like that's what I can share. And I went back to her group classes and eventually started going through this, but that was impactful to me. So that's how it kind of blended with the train, like, and I didn't know Feldenkrais could do that, because for me, as dancers, we think, well, Feldenkrais is a tool, it's an approach, it's like, but I think functional integration wasn't presented so much to me because it wasn't part of our training. So that had an impact in my healing for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, what a story. So it brought you after a while to take the training and become a practitioner yourself.
Well, because I couldn't continue with this dance training, because I was getting better, but as soon as I would try to do a little more, the muscles would tense up again. And I don't even remember if I had one or more lesson with her. I mainly did group classes after that, awareness through movement. But after the year, they were like, you cannot continue in this program. So I applied to Concordia University, which is a dance program for choreographers. And which is very, to me, I look at it back today, and their approach was very somatic. Like they would not put you a number during the audition. They would try to make it personal. And then they would focus on people trying to create according to what's there, what's present. So we were trained as choreographer to learn how to navigate with the constraint that maybe if our dancer gets injured, how do we deal with that? How do we reorganize the choreography so that it's respectful for our dancer? We don't just throw him out and hire another dancer. So politically, it made sense to me to go there, but also now I'm looking at it and it's such a Feldenkrais approach to look at things, very somatic. So I did my 3-year program in a contemporary dance choreography. And then we had some Feldenkrais there, but then I would get frustrated because we had less technique classes. And I see that now because I teach dancers and they don't want to move slow.
Mm.
They want to move, and especially some programs have less technique classes because when it's a scholarly training, you have more theory, and so they're less pushed than in a conservatory training. So when I was at Concordia and the Feldenkrais was brought within the technique class, that was taking away some of the technique class, which of course it's as beneficial. And I know I could have benefited, but as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, no, I wasn't open to that. I think if it had been brought outside of my of my technique, I would have been more open like I was in the other curriculum at conservatory dance school. So I was a little close, but it felt good. And then I was hit by a car. And my teacher at Concordia had told me that his teacher was also a psychologist. And so after I was hit by a car, I asked him the name of the psychologist who was also a Feldenkrais practitioner. And so I went there, and so it was someone I could talk to, but would also sometimes we would do Feldenkrais, and it was the body and mind connected. And you know, that's when you understand that it's not separate. And like when your body feels better, your mind feels better. And so, and of course, as a dancer, for me, I wanted to get back to dance class and feel better, and it worked. So sold, right? Not only was I dealing with the psychology of having another obstacle in front of my dream, but also having the possible became there again. You know, it was like, oh wow, okay, it's not over. There are choices that perhaps can be opened again. But so, and then I moved to California to continue my training. And I went into Pilates because I wanted to get stronger, but I kept hurting myself. I was doing conventional Pilates, which is more like you need to do it the way Joe Pilates did it in the 60s,
You follow the
yeah.
program.
Yeah. And after a while, I was like, no. And someone moved my head. And after my experience of Feldenkrais, someone moving my head, you could feel that she just thought of my head. She didn't think about the rest of my body. And it was a corrective approach of like, no, this is wrong. And I was like, that's not right. This is like, you don't correct people like that. How is my body going to remember it that way? Just remember a very oppressive touch of correcting.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I'm done with Pilates. And I went to, and then there was a Feldenkrais training starting. And that's how I went to do my Feldenkrais training. Went back to Pilates years later, but as a rehab connection towards a rehab-oriented Pilates training.
So
Yeah.
a different approach.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to come back to first thing that comes to my mind when I hear your story.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go through some trouble. The fact that your first foot pain or discomfort that your teacher said, look into it. I find this quite unique because in my career as a pianist, I played for some dance classes and dance trainings. I also accompanied a musical theater school. So they had a lot of dance, and so many dance teachers just push you through and tell you, you will live with pain. You just take it for granted. Dancers live with pain, and you just live through it. So keep going. So that's you were lucky with your dance teachers, and then the choreography school sounds wonderful. And I've seen it as a Feldenkrais practitioner that bringing this kind of awareness to people who do who train hard and need to perform on a very high level. Dancers, athletes, they have a hard time slowing down. You really have to build it into their mindset. And especially if they're young and they want to go fast and go strong and go faster and stronger with every training. So just lie on your back, sense your body. What a waste of time, right? It just doesn't fit into their way of thinking. So yeah, I'm here in Chile, actually, the first Feldenkrais teacher who was teaching here before I came to Chile was working in a dance school. So so many of the current newer Feldenkrais practitioners here are dancers. So it actually there's a lot of emphasis around here in this area, and it's very good. Lots of these dancers really came to appreciate and understand the value of this work, that simply slowing down and reducing the effort allows them to sense themselves more, sense the fine things, the details of what they are doing, and you can improve this way. This is what we're doing, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think I don't hear a lot of that in conversation in the Feldenkrais world of how culturally it is so different. Like I think in North America, as part of the system, people don't take a lot of vacation. People are being pushed all the time, especially after living in the United States for a long time. Like people were working 14, 16-hour day. Some of my clients, it was, and then even in Canada, we have, in general, people have 2 weeks vacation per year. And in Europe, most people take at least a month of summer vacation. And I have talked to some of my teachers here in Quebec who also taught to some French people who come to study here. And I haven't seen enough to say, I don't want to generalize, but I have a feeling that these people are able to rest and slow down more easily, perhaps because culturally they know the value of resting. And I don't think it's as valued in North America. I don't know about Chile, but like for me, I think that has an impact. And Feldenkrais was really keen on knowing what's our environment like, how do we adapt? But I think that's also part of, maybe we should take into account when we teach in one area to the other. I would be curious about that, of other teachers' experience, because I noticed that it appears to be a little easier for the European population to gather the rest.
Interesting observation. Probably now, recently, now in the last few years, when I'm mainly working online, and many of my students, clients, whom I've never met in person, are from the United States, it is very clear to me, and it became very present in the way I think about what I do, and also in what I try to transmit, that this approach is tremendously revolutionary. Because in United States, Americans are very much into the culture of no pain, no gain. You have to try harder. Whatever it is that you're doing, you can do better by trying harder. Make it stronger, work more hours, just try harder, make more effort. This is the basic approach. So, and when you go to a Feldenkrais class and you hear, you move very little, very slowly, and then you rest. What? I don't need a rest. I need to do some more. And this kind of sensitivity to yourself when you are at rest, when you do very little, when you do it slowly and you do it with a very low muscle tone, is technically
Yeah.
very specific. You lower
Yeah.
your muscle tone. You lie on the floor very often in class so that you don't have to deal with gravity. You don't have to have you can reduce your basic muscle tone so that you become more sensitive. And this is scientifically measurable.
Yeah.
Your perception of differences become much more acute or sharp. You
Yes.
notice smaller differences. So this is what we are working with. We're observing the small differences. This is where you can change, where you find options, where you retrain your nervous system or simply give it new information so that it can make cleverer choices,
Yeah. Yes.
right? And I find that, as you say, with Americans, they have uh, to change a mindset in a revolutionary way. It is not obvious, and it
Mm-hmm.
is very difficult. For some
Yeah.
people, they just don't go, they get bored, and they just never come back.
Yeah. And
It,
I think even that, I think it's all over the world. Even on the media, the pushing, I think it's what makes it more challenging in North America is that there isn't that notion of, okay, we're taking vacation and we rest, or some of them do, but it's not um, the, yeah,
the
it's not
norm.
the norm for the majority. However, and it's another challenge for me because I am also a personal trainer and do Pilates. So people who come to me will often come through that wrong. They want to get stronger. And that's what strong means to them, right? The strength is only muscular for a lot of people who haven't done any somatic education. So it's my job to teach them. However, I have an extra challenge because they see me as the trainer. Now, how do I, as a trainer, and it was like the first 2 years where I was doing both Feldenkrais and Pilates was difficult because I was even in conflict within myself. I was like, is it against each other? And I finally weaved a way to make it work because at the end, people want to move freely with a feeling of strength and ease and empowerment, right? And you get that through Feldenkrais, but people are not necessarily patient if they're not dealing with pain to go through this, unless they have, like you did, like a spiritual quest or bettering themselves, or maybe they'll do that through another approach. But that's been a challenge because I'm training them and we see there's compensation, something creates pain, and I sometimes I'll say, okay, go have it checked from a physical therapist, and sometimes they'll do. And I work together with physical therapists I know because I also worked in dance and sports medicine in a hospital in San Francisco for a while. So I created connections there, and some with whom I really have a similar kind of way of thinking, and we would brainstorm together for clients. So I've kept these relationship, and sometimes I'll send my clients there, and then we talk together to improve their well-being. So sometimes I'll send them there, but sometimes we'll do Feldenkrais and when they come to trust me, they know that there's a discovery, and then the image of themselves will improve, and then they become more autonomous. And I think that's the key, so that when they go back to their sport, when they go back to their daily living, they don't go in a corrective mode, but they become a movement explorer themselves and become curious, interested in how things work and improve themselves. And I think that's the beauty of getting feedback from people. Hey, I had knee pain since high school, and we did 3 lessons together, and last time I went hiking, I was able to change a little bit, and I went hiking 40 kilometers. Like, it's like that's the beauty, is like they become that autonomous. And I think the challenge is when we're saying, like, culturally we're being asked to push, and all the time if they go see another person, because that also comes to, there's something wrong with you, you need to push harder, there's something, oh, your spine is crooked, they come back, oh, I've been told, I just went to see this massage therapist, he said that, and I'm like, okay, we've been working together for what, several months, and sometimes I work with clients for several years, because if we've done Feldenkrais, they feel better, we go into Pilates and training, so we keep that relationship. But we don't necessarily do Feldenkrais all the time. But so when they go back to training, or so if they go see a massage because they wanted to treat themselves, they come back and they have these, like, oh, now suddenly, like, they said I had a scoliosis, they said my leg is longer, and I'm like, okay, first, what does that give you? What we've been working together for several months. Have you improved or not? Are you feeling better? So what is the purpose of focusing on that? Because even if your leg is longer, everybody has a leg longer than any, usually they start, I think it's at 10, more than 10 millimeters, even more than that. I think they start saying, okay, this is longer, but in general, most people have a leg longer than the other. But you have to measure the bones. It takes a machine. I've had it done for me because someone thought I had a leg longer. So of course that's very personal to me when someone come back. But then it's like, we have to go back all over again. And same with someone who came back. She's like, oh, I won't say, my specialist said, like, I'm weak in my back. And then she's trying to turn on her back. She was on a wheelchair. She's trying to move from side to back and back to side on her own. And we had succeeded in doing that. She comes back from the specialist who said she's weak. We had been doing Feldenkrais and training. And suddenly, from being told she was weak, she lost the capacity of turning what we've worked on for a few weeks. So she lost her autonomy, because now her thinking was moving the muscles. And this is not functional. And
Yeah. I'm weak, so I can't do it.
Yeah. So I'm like, we can work on strengthening. We're going to work it functionally, because working just muscular in terms of strengthening that muscle and that muscle only is just, to me, like a complete waste of time. And so it's education. I think we just need to educate our clients so that they understand that when they're slowing down, they're not wasting time. They're actually gaining time, because that person being told she was weak and working on the muscles, because they did work on their muscle, lost all the work we had done functionally. And I had to spend another 45 minutes with her to recover, to go back into functionally connecting to the environment. So, and yet those people know me, I've been educating them, but because the main message we hear through media, through our culture all over the world almost, is to push, to strengthen muscularly, to go regionally, locally, without looking at the whole picture. And that's just putting blinders, I think, and it's just sad. And I repeat it all the time. And some people, and some people, they'll come back, and I'm okay repeating it if it helps. And because I know, even for myself, I need to be reminded.
Yeah, there's a deep programming in
Yeah.
culture that we've received from a very early age.
Yeah, yeah,
It needs repeating, and
yes.
you're bringing it up in me again. The clarity of how revolutionary it is, our way of looking at, especially at learning. Feldenkrais is about learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not
Yes.
training, right? We're
Yeah.
not training. We're not repeating movements to strengthen muscles or uh, doing stretching to improve mobility. We're re-educating the nervous
Yeah.
system, if you want, but it's about learning. And we've been taught that learning is done by shutting up and listening to the authority.
Yeah.
Somebody in front of you knows what you need to learn right now and what it is that you are learning, and you listen and you absorb it.
Yeah.
This is what school is all about.
Yeah.
And I've just been writing about it, like what happens. We learn the hugest amount and the fastest in the first 2-3 years of our lives. We don't need the Ministry of Education, we don't follow a program, and we don't have teachers.
Well said.
This
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
fantastic. And
Yeah.
this is where learning occurs. And Feldenkrais looked a lot at babies and kind of, uh, I, if I understand correctly, designed his way of teaching or dealing with learning based on that kind of learning, organic learning that we do by exploring, by moving freely, by following our curiosity, which means staying with what is interesting and leaving it when it stops being interesting and going somewhere else. This is what babies do the whole day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is a learning, and then you go to school, and all of this is eliminated immediately. Traditional school, the way I know it, you have to sit, so you stop moving. You have to shut up, so you stop interacting, and your curiosity doesn't play a role because you get the input from the outside. They know, the
Yeah.
authority knows what you should be learning. Your
Yeah.
curiosity is not a
Yeah.
thing. So you repress it. You have to repress it. If we are born with anything valuable for learning, it is curiosity. Babies
Yeah.
are extremely curious. They focus on things. They devour the world with their senses, with their observation. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't want to go into the school system because I get angry,
Well, you
if
see,
not
this is
sad.
super interesting because I'm teaching in a university right now, and it's a Feldenkrais, it's a somatic workshop for dancers, and it's in the Feldenkrais method. So it's 45 hours, so a whole semester, twice a week, an hour and a half. And we get to explore the Feldenkrais method. But this is a new generation too, who are a little more anxious, and I have to explain them what's the difference between organic learning and academic learning. But also some of those teachers, there's a program, so some in the program are for artistic research, so choreography and becoming a professional dancer. And in the same class, I have people who are going to become teachers, dance teacher in high school. So those people who are learning to become teacher, they have pedagogy classes, so they learn all the steps of how to break up a class. But it's again, it's, even though it's great that they're learning this, I'm not saying, and they'll, however, they get, because I think they're learning both at the same time, so it gets confusing to them. And so I'm really trying this year to get in conversation with the teacher who teaches them the stages of pedagogy for their learning, so that I can have a similar language, so they don't get a little more resistant to the organic teacher, because again, the mass is all about the way we've been learning from school, unless you've been homeschooled, which is pretty rare in Quebec, from what I know. So it's a whole system, but at the same time, I find it beautiful and radical, like that a university would give that permission, allow to have that, the somatic, even though we have to break some rules, because yes, we have to grade the students, which totally against the philosophy, but at least we're putting it available there, and we're giving it a certain recognition by being in a university system. So it's an interesting, it's hard to grade, because I'm trying to really focus on the process. So that's why I'm having them really write down in a journal their process, and I'm looking at that more as a grading system, but they're wired in another system, which is, yeah. So that's super interesting. And it's nice because it also allows that process to, often I see that quest, that inquisition, like, oh, there's a self-reflection that is being brought up from these, and like, I love it. Sometimes like they're like, oh, it's actually a philosophy for life. It's not just for dance. And I'm like, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And very often it is a re-education, and it goes deep. I mean, if coming back to what I said before, if your curiosity has been repressed for
Yeah.
years, and it's difficult to kill curiosity. It is not something that gives up easily. So you can reawaken it at any age.
Yes.
So it's great that I think this is what you're in the job of reawakening your students' curiosity, which is wonderful. But it's a revolution.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I mean, it's a slow evolving revolution, but
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully. And I'm curious to, a lot of my private students or client, like even like trainer client, when we start doing the Feldenkrais method and then go back to their lunges or squats, or they realize how much they've gained, and then they can bring it to their walk or their hike, and they realize how much that's benefiting them. And so often they come back and say, why don't we learn this in high school? So
Yeah.
often there's like, why did we not learn this? Like, great for physical education and throwing a ball around, but um, this would be so beneficial, and it would take away so much of our health system, which has been, since the pandemic, all the from all over the world, it seems like all this health system are overloaded. And if we can give tools to people, we empower people to become participant in their health rather than patient, then so many people will be out of those hospital waiting room, or especially when it comes to cells, you need a certain doctor to look at this, but when it comes to the human function, there's a lot of movement specialists out there that can help without having to go through a family doctor, and yet people don't know, so they're not educated on that side, and they go to their family doctor for skeletal muscular pain, which I think a lot of specialists are more equipped to help them faster than, nothing wrong with family doctor. I'm happy they exist and they can help in so many ways, but I think they can be helpful in so many ways. If we can take away from I just want to take away from the health system. I want my parents to have access to that family doctor when they need to, for things we can't help with, or they can't help themselves with. But
Yeah,
yeah.
of course. We want a healthy system to be there at our service.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, there's a whole Pandora box that you're opening there, talking about health.
Yeah.
Yes. Similar to the school system, we have
Yes.
authority. We gave our power to the authority. We
Yes.
obey. We have no say in the matter, and
Yeah.
this requires again a revolution, and not just about movement, about all of the aspects of your health.
Yes. Yeah.
Give the patient agency. Let
Absolutely.
the patient become part of the healing process, not just a receiver of medication. And this is a revolutionary change. It is not just a tweak. So I'd like to take you, before we wrap up, if you're game, into where my vision goes with the Feldenkrais method and with what I'm trying to build up and teach, because I'm very aware of this, of the revolutionary side of what we're doing. Like on its surface, it looks like body work. We work with movement, and you get very clearly on the very kind of first layer improvement in the way you move. You feel better, you move better, you organize yourself better, you become more efficient. Very often reduce pain and stiffness. It is very good for your movement. But I I like to remind this to myself and to my students often. It's not about movement. This is my take on it. Movement is the environment in which we create a learning space and in which we create the possibility of growth.
Yes.
And this is where I see it as a spiritual journey. So the improvement, the benefits in movement are kind of a side effect, or the most superficial layer of what we're doing. I don't know if you are going there, or if you, but
Yeah, I
just
think it's the entryway.
I want to say that I have a kind of a vision somewhere behind there. I know that we need to change humanity. I mean, humanity is destroying our world. Humanity, I mean, our modern civilization, which is 99 point, I don't know how much of humanity. It's what's left because we eliminated the rest of humanity. Our culture, civilization, we took a turn in a very destructive direction. So something needs to change profoundly. And what I see, what gives me hope, is that there is movement all around us in different ways, not just Feldenkrais is just one option or possibility for change, a change of consciousness. So we need to understand ourselves differently, our place in the world, what we are here to do, and how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the environment. We need a deep change in the narrative, in the stories we tell ourselves. This is my feeling of what's going on, and I have this calling, this sensation that what we do is nudging us in that direction of a radical change in the way we perceive ourselves. Would you agree? Does it make sense to you? Is it part of what you, or part of your thinking, maybe?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually making a post on my social media recently with all the wars happening, and I was saying, well, There's not much I can do about the wars in the world right now, but if I can at least help people not be at war with themselves. And I think when people are becoming mean, and I think that's really what helped me also, what got really blew my mind when I was in the training is like I used to be very angry at people who were mean, or like I would just be not curious. And that curiosity was created through the exploration of movement, brought curiosity in people's behavior. And I was like, okay, so if that person is so mean, they're probably in pain, or there's something, or there's a reason why they behave this way. And let me ask that question if that person is in my proximity, like, so that I become curious of what is going on with them. But I had to understand that within myself, I think, before I could be curious um, towards other people, or at least I think that's what happened. I'm not sure how it happened because it happens so subconsciously. And I think that's the trick. We go through movement because it accesses our subconscious in a very subtle way that you just wake up and see the result, and you don't always know where that come from, but when you practice enough, you know this practice has this impact. So totally, like, yes, how can we be um kinder to ourselves, and when we understand ourselves better, I think we also connect better with our environment and with people around you. Well, I hope there's, yeah.
Yeah, if there is hope, then this is it.
And at least that's something we can do. Yeah, that's something we can improve. And like you said, it brings us to a consciousness and mindfulness that yeah, it's yeah,
Right. Yeah, I think this is what I meant. You put it exactly right, that you change the way you move in this profound way, the way you function, the way you use yourself, the way you manifest. I don't know. It is pretty much the same thing for me. It is not that you have changed something in the mechanics of your action. It is that you have changed, and this is
yeah,
what the this is where it connects to spirituality for me. We
yeah,
change globally as people when we explore ourselves and open up to real profound change.
yeah. Also, the mechanic will probably have improved as well as an outcome of that focus. But yeah, it's again, it's right. It's mind, body, environment connection. So yeah, totally agree.
Okay, great. So maybe we can wrap up with this hopeful note.
Okay.
So where can people find you? What is it that you are offering, at least on the uh, online world that is going to hear
Uh,
this?
well, I'm on Instagram at Motion Exploration. I'm on Facebook, also Christine Germain, Motion Exploration. I have a Facebook page, which will have a little more content in French on my Facebook page. Instagram is a little more English, but I try to translate when there's room. And I have a newsletter, so if you find my website, it's motionexploration.com. Yeah.
Great. So go follow Christine in motion exploration. Explore yourself in motions and grow.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Christine, for your
Thank you.
time and for your wisdom. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.